Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of VNture Podcast, along with your hosts, Taros and MR. Today is another special episode where we will have a guest along for the ride, Michael SK, a prominent visual novel YouTuber and Let's Player. So, Michael, it is very nice to have you on board. Can you please introduce yourself to everyone else?
Yeah, thanks. Hello, my name is Michael, or Michael SK here on YouTube. First off, thank you for bringing me on board. Happy to be here. I've been doing Let's Play videos of various games and, of course, visual novels for almost 10 years of when we're recording this. And it's sort of just been a hobby that has greatly stuck. It has definitely been a significant part of my life at this point. And I just really enjoy sitting down, going through some visual novels or various games and seeing what people think, how people react to my experiences through the games I sit down and play.
Well, it's such a pleasure to have an opportunity to sit down with you and talk. Just to give you a context, when you were added to list of suspicious people to ask for a guest appearance, you were about on the third episode of your Let's Play of 9-9, episode 2. That was it some time ago.
And that was actually quite a bit of time ago. Wow. And I even forgot I recorded that.
And where are you now in the 9 series?
I actually just started episode 3 after like a few months break. That is quite a bit of time now that you bring it up. I'm a couple videos deep into episode 3, and I've also just started, or a month or so ago, started recording Anonymous Code, which just recently came out.
Ooh, nice. Interesting. You mentioned that you did take like a couple months break. What is your schedule usually like?
I don't really have one. It's it's all over the place. I like to keep the people guessing, including myself. I'm always trying to aim for daily episodes, though, of whether it's just some random game or it is mostly visual novels. I try to aim for a daily schedule, but life gets in the way. And I also don't want to burn myself out with one series. So for like the 9-9 series, because it's already broken up into different games, that gives me the opportunity to take a pretty natural break. So I can jump in after a few months and remember the story after a few hours of recording, like, oh yeah, this happened. And I'm right back at it. I'm able to continue without the feeling of being burnt out.
I feel like those episodes in 9-9 are structured in such a way they don't really end on a cliffhanger. They have very good exit points in between those episodes. Would you agree?
Except for the first episode. The first episode was very...
the first was, yeah. Okay.
But episode 2 actually is what ignited a flame for me to continue it, because I was telling people when I was recording it that, hey guys, I'm not really sure. This isn't like something that's kind of sticking with me. Like, it's fun, but I don't know if I want to dedicate the time for it. But after episode 2, I was hooked. I was ready to go for more. But again, I just wanted to take like a little bit of time before, I got burnt out, which does happen. It really does happen if you do, months of recording the same thing over and over and over again.
You mentioned burnout as well as recording the same thing. How do you juggle having multiple Let's Plays of multiple different titles?
It is very difficult, especially when the genres are so different. I've been doing a lot of the science adventure series this year, and I can guarantee you that I am feeling burnt out because I have felt the, I guess you can call it pressure, the necessity to get through all these titles so that I'm ready for the next one. Anonymous Code just came out, if you guys have heard, but last year around the same time, Chaos Head Noah finally came to the West, and I wanted to be ready for that one. And after recording that, I jumped into another one, but I was therefore putting myself on a tight schedule for when Anonymous Code would come out, because I wanted to be ready to immediately jump on that the minute it released. And luckily I was able to. But at the same time, I'm feeling I'm feeling ready to just drop it all. Like I'm ready to finally finish it and not touch another title from the series for a bit. It is definitely difficult to juggle them, especially with multiple genres.
So you've at this point you've mentioned how sometimes you want to be there for like release to drop in right away, and sometimes how you're feeling burnt out. Do you make a separation between like the titles that you want to play and the titles that you feel like you should play to, entertain your audience? Do you just always stream whatever you happen to be doing? How do you make that separation between like your streaming life and just your own personal interests?
So it's a weird mix of both. A lot of what I record, if not the majority or all of it, is stuff I enjoy. Like I aim to record my let's plays of games, visual novels, whatever, things that I enjoy. But I also have to keep in mind that I have an audience. I have actually many different kinds of audiences. Everybody has different tastes, and not everybody is going to enjoy something that I enjoy to record. But I did know, especially for Anonymous Code and Chaos Head Noah, when those released and I jumped on to their release dates to record, I did know that I had an audience for them, and it made it much more rewarding to immediately jump onto it at the risk of feeling burnt out because I'm just jumping into it without a break to get into something else that I would also like to do. It is very tough to juggle, but in the end, I do try to aim for stuff that I personally enjoy, secondary stuff that my audiences also enjoy.
Is that the prime reason why you have varied titles to cater
Yes.
to your varied audience?
Yes. Well, even from the very beginning, like I kind of just did a variety of whatever because I didn't know what would stick. I didn't know what would work for Let's Plays, what would work for me even. So in the very beginning, before I jumped into visual novel Let's Plays, I was kind of just doing a mix of everything. And then in late 2015, early 2016, I started to transition to visual novels, saw that, hey, there's some people interested in this. And I'm also interested in this very niche medium that I've stumbled across. Let's see how far I can go with it. And then fast forward to today, look where I am.
You mentioned though that this is pretty much a hobby for you, something entertaining, but you still want to give to your audience. Do you have any sort of monetization, or do you like view this as a long-term career sort of option?
Definitely not a long-term career. I do see myself maybe I don't want to give like a time frame. I do not see myself doing this forever. This is a hobby that has most definitely stuck, and I love to do it. I love to see people's reactions. I love to do this weird communication with those in the comments and those that talk to me outside of YouTube, like in Discord about my videos. It's a very fun time, but at the same time, it's also a hobby. It's something to, I guess, escape from life. Whenever I started my YouTube channel, I was in high school, and then I went to college and university, and now I just work full time. So being able to go home and jump into Michael SK, it has always been like an escape, a very fun escape, a whole different world, I guess you could say. But at the end of the day, it is a hobby, and full transparency, yes, a little bit of monetization, but definitely nothing to live by.
I have an extension of a question that I was posed earlier about the recording and titles you enjoy, right? Do you play VNs for yourself outside of Let's Plays? Or now everything you play is a Let's Play by default?
It used to be like that, where I would only go through visual novels for a Let's Play. I definitely have always been a bit of a gamer, so I would always play games outside of Let's Plays or for streams or just really on my own time. But for visual novels, it was exclusively for Let's Plays. Visual novels always on the Let's Play grind. But something kind of changed inside of me this year, and I decided I'm going to tackle some things away from Let's Plays. And I am currently doing so with a few titles, and I plan on reviewing and discussing them not as Let's Plays, but in a completely different style of video. So I'm kind of stepping away from Let's Plays entirely to trying something a little different, but at the same time, I'm also reading visual novels on my own time.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Because, yeah, sometimes I like to read visual novels in like a Discord channel with like a read along with other people who are familiar, and it's a fun, tiny little community of people to, share your thoughts and post screenshots and whatever. And there is a difference, like between whenever I'm just reading a title in my own time and whenever I'm reading a visual novel with other people who are excited to see my reactions and where I am in the story. So there's a whole different behavior. And sometimes, I want that whole community aspect, just like with you and your streaming. And sometimes it's just, I just want to chill on myself, like in bed with a cool title,
Exactly. No, and it's exactly that. Being able to relax and enjoy it rather than like the camera's on or you're recording or whatever, and you're expected to live express how you're feeling about it rather than enjoy, relax. You don't have to say anything immediately. You don't have to think anything immediately. And you can kind of go at it at your own slower pace or whatever pace you want.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No. On top of that, I have a question to add to that. Because you mentioned that you like speaking to the community, be it on Discord or maybe in the comments. And I have a question. What is more common in your opinion? People who watch with you a VN for their first time, or people who come to your Let's Play to see your reaction and commentary on a title they've already experienced?
It's got to be a mix, especially with visual novels. I believe that there is a divide somewhere where there definitely are people that are coming by to experience the game with me, whether it was their first time or not. But then there's others that are coming for the sole reason of seeing what I am commentating about at a certain point in the story or how I react to something. There's got to be a divide. I definitely have come across some users who do say like, "Hey, this is my first time through. I'm glad it's with you." But others who say like, "Hey, I'm here for so and so points in the story. I'm glad you were able to, share your thoughts on this and that." And I think both are okay, but then it really brings up the topic of, is it okay to experience this story, whether it's a game or a visual novel, with a Let's Player rather than going and, experiencing it on your own time? Because there definitely is a difference.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely. I want to give a point on that because I rarely, if ever, go through Let's Plays, but there were few times in my life that when I wanted to know about the game and I felt like there is no way I'm playing horror, okay? So
Same.
I watched Let's Play of two games in particular. Amnesia, The Dark Descent, and the second was The Cat Lady. Both are very messed up horror. And I was like, no, I'm not touching horror myself. Someone else has to touch it for me. But I was intrigued enough, and they were famous enough for some things they did for their genre, that I really wanted to know what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you that nowadays I don't watch Let's Plays whatsoever. If I do pull up a Let's Play, it's like maybe to kind of skims and see, what the game is about, what it looks like, what to expect early on, to see, is this something I'd like to really jump into, kind of like a demo.
Exactly.
But back in the day, it was when I didn't have a nice gaming computer or like a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360 in high school. I didn't get to play. I didn't get to play all the new games, right? So I would watch Let's Plays, and it really wasn't the same as sitting down in front of my own TV and experiencing it. But it was still an enjoyable time being able to, watch somebody else go through it, especially if it's horror. If it's a scary game, yeah, count me out. I am definitely right there with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And on the flip side, it's kind of hilarious in its own way when you see a streamer playing a horror game and they're not good with horror either. And then they're just scaredy
Yes.
cats, and something pops up and they scream, and you're just like, lol. You can laugh along with them. You're just thankful that you're not the one driving the wheel here.
Exactly.
Yes. Actually, I do still record some creepy stuff here and there, visual novels and games alike, but it's definitely not one I touch. Corpse Party was one I started a couple of years ago, and I'm still very, very, very slowly going through it.
Oh
But
boy.
uh, another thing that you can think of is, as a Let's Player, your goal is to commentate, entertain, and add your natural reactions to everything. I feel like I could utilize that as a form of entertainment. So, at the risk of a heart attack, I can definitely, entertain people through, getting jump scared or whatever. Yeah, in a way, it's kind of got a payoff, I guess you could say.
Yeah, on topic of that, of the value added, of the transformative use of work, I have to say, Mr. Michael no underscore SK, what's your style? What's your brand of that value added?
Right. First off, yes, no underscore that is pronounced. It's just Michael SK. But yeah. So what I've always done for Let's Plays, and what I'd say is something I try to focus on, is always adding commentary to everything I record, and as much as I can. Not to a point where I'm telling myself, okay, I got to talk here, I got to talk there. Like if it's something I can briefly touch upon, or add some opinions, or if I react to something, or if I bring in like a story from my life or an experience that I've gone through that I feel like can relate, that is what I feel is transformative in what I record, is always trying to add something vocally through commentary. And I'm not just going to sit down and let the visual novel or game play out. I'm definitely going to talk, and I want people to always expect that, most definitely.
Interesting,
That's
because from what I understand, you lean a little bit more on relatability front of your commentary. How about recaps? Do you do any recaps, maybe deduction of what you think might happen?
Yeah, I definitely try to, like, whenever I start a new episode, I try to talk about what we've gone through in the previous episode in my own way, which is probably wrong because I've got a terrible memory. But I still do it. And I also try to give predictions as to what's going to happen. So, on top of commentary, opinions, and reactions, I'm also trying to sit down with the viewers, take in everything that they've said in the comments, take everything that's been told to us through the story, and try to piece together the puzzle through my perspective, which more times than not is probably wrong. Everybody that has read through Higurashi probably has not figured it out fully until it's pretty much revealed to them near the end what's going on there. But I still like to sit down and work through it with everybody, like a big old conversation, to see what's really going on. And it's like that with really any story. It doesn't have to be mystery, but it's definitely a fun aspect of it.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, because I also wanted to mention that the whole point of making it transformative is that you don't want this to just be a pirated copy of the visual novel where you're just streaming it to YouTube for free.
Yes, I do know that there are people that do that. I won't comment on that, but for me personally, that's not what I want to do. I want it to be a whole different experience for everybody. If it is their first time going through the story, again, either game or visual novel, that's okay. They're not going to get the same experience, in my opinion, as going through it on their own terms. But I still want it. I want it to be a different experience nonetheless, whether they've gone through it or not. I definitely want it to be different from just watching an uncommentary or no commentary video series of it up on YouTube or something like that. Definitely.
On a different note, I wanted to ask you, Michael, what are some of your favorite visual novels?
Perfect. I highlighted some in my notes.
Oh, you were ready for this.
I had to be, just in case. So over my 10 years here on YouTube, where I only really started getting into visual novels a few years in, I have to admit, I hadn't really picked up too many visual novels compared to a lot of others that are, enjoyers of this niche medium. But I definitely have a few that stand out. The first big one that I jumped into, I have to have it up there on the list, is The Fruit of Grisaya. I think Grisaya is a really great starter visual novel. It's very long. It's got a lot of substance to it. And I think it really opens the doors to a lot of people. Um, a few years later, I jumped into Wonderful Everyday, which is
Oh,
the
wow.
complete opposite. That is a very, that is definitely a story to behold. It took me a little while to get through that one, but I hold it up there. That one is incredible, and I definitely need to reread it on my own time because there's a lot there. Um, let's see, what else do I have here on the list? I jumped into Steins Gate as well around the same time as Wonderful Everyday, and that was really kind of like my doors opening to the science adventure series, which again, I have a lot of audiences, people that are interested in many different things. I definitely have an audience for the science adventure series, and I am a fan. I am a big fan of a lot of the stuff they put out there. So Steins Gate is definitely up on my list. Chaos Head, not so much. Robotics Notes, definitely. And I am reading through Anonymous Code. Not sure what to say on that one. And a very recent favorite is Amatsutsumi. That one is still on my mind. I love that one. Really great title.
On the top from Matsutsumi, because I'm currently reading it.
Perfect.
How to face this question? If you were to overly analyze and deduce plot twists or takes on the story, how much would be too much and would detract from the story? I have 300 lines. If I imagine myself written down of notes, if I imagine myself let's playing and predicting plot twists, I already had reached one point in the story that I said, and that's it. Yeah, I predicted that. At some point, it's too much detracts from Let's Play. How do you feel?
Oh, MR is saying that he's just too good for the VN. Huh?
No!
He's got it all figured out. His baby challenge.
Okay, enough. Listen, I look for patterns. And when it comes to magical systems, a lot of the time patterns go... the pattern for twists come from rules. And the very first one I noted down, the moment I heard about it, is discrepancy. And again, I'm very careful with spoilers, okay?
No spoilers.
There is a discrepancy between what is possible and what is allowed. Immediately when I heard it, there's some disconnect in that story when something is not possible, yet it's still disallowed. And I wrote it down, possible scenario, why is that? And yeah, I figured it out before they brought it up.
I see what you're saying. Amatsutsumi is definitely an interesting one for that, actually, because there are some rules that are like thrown in your face from the get-go, kind of.
Yep.
But I do have to say, I actually do not remember what kind of direction I went in with my predictions, but I was satisfied. I was definitely satisfied with the surprises that popped up, with how things kind of changed around. I don't think I got the nail on the head with it, but I was in the ballpark.
Okay.
It was definitely in the range of this most definitely cannot ever happen in reality. It's definitely some, sci-fi stuff going on, but it was still really cool and believable, and it's something that, I cared about. And whenever I care about things, whenever I'm doing Let's Plays, I'm definitely going to commentate more. I'm definitely going to be more assertive in my thoughts and opinions. It makes the experience, in my opinion, a whole lot more fun for everybody involved. I think Amatsutsumi did things pretty dang okay, but again, no spoilers. There is Kunado Chronicles, which I didn't do a Let's Play of, but I definitely read on my own time, unfortunately, and reviewed. I didn't give it that great of a score, in my opinion, but I think the reason for that is because it kind of just goes all over the place, and it kind of takes the rules that you get in Amatsutsumi and kind of just doesn't really carry them over in such a great way in Kunado Chronicles, in my personal opinion, which kind of makes it a little rough for trying to predict things properly.
To be frank, I don't know what Kunado Chronicle is. Is that from Purple Software?
Yes.
Or is it different? Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually a indirect sequel that takes place far into the future, and it still utilizes the same magical concepts that are brought up with the main character in Amatsutsumi.
Okay.
Which is a great hook. It really is a great hook.
Is.
I mean, I love the Amatsutsumi. Why would I not be, I would obviously be interested in jumping into this, but I did review it, wasn't really happy with it, but definitely had a good hook in that it utilizes the same stuff as Amatsutsumi.
Yeah, and just for a context, my initial takes is still I really like where this is going and the story itself. It just with that one thing that I figured out, I was kind of disappointed, especially given how much build up they did.
It is a lot of build. It's through the entirety of the game.
For those who know, I'm at first playthrough still, at chapter 14. After probably first big reveal or something like that.
Usually,
yeah. I probably personally don't remember like when things happen. Enough. Like I have to move on. I have to move on to the next big story and everything. So yeah, definitely.
Usually when you're a streamer, let's player, and you're trying to figure out mysteries in advance, the bigger issue is that you might have people in the chat, spoil things intentionally or unintentionally. And so you kind of have to strike a balancing act of how much you want to interact with chat and how much you want to ignore them for your own well-being.
Yeah, that's actually kind of been a thing going on here with Anonymous Code. Again, still reading it. I think I'm near the end, and there has been some pretty big reveals that are pretty significant for the entirety of the Science Adventure series. So not just Anonymous Code, but everything prior. And that's got people talking in the comments, which is great. That is like, again, my whole big thing is having that really big conversation with everybody. But at the same time, with everything going on, I'm all of a sudden being a lot more cautious of what I read. I personally don't think I've ever been spoiled outright, but people, I want to say unintentionally, do provide a little bit too much in the comments. You can tell that they're people that have already experienced the visual novel and they're joining in for reactions and all that, which is perfectly fine. But yeah, they sometimes let just a bit too much through.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
I don't think it's their fault, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do.
On a different topic, obviously. On a different topic, I have a question to you. Do you think what you do with Let's Plays is very hard to listen in the background? Because what I recently experienced myself, and I hear from other people when talking about YouTube, a lot of the people just run YouTube in the background. So, for example, I listen to the podcast or maybe reviews in the gym a lot of the time. For the Let's Play, especially of a visual novel, it's super hard to understand what is going on unless it's voiced. And with a voice you understand, not the Japanese for the majority of the cases.
I know exactly what you mean here. Yes.
Yeah, the recent trend in YouTube videos is a lot of people just run them in the background, in some cases, to fall asleep too.
I mean, it's like that way with TV too. Sometimes you just have things. A lot of people will have it just running on as background noise. It doesn't even really matter what the content is either. It's just something to fill the silence. And some people, that's how a lot of them treat YouTube. Just something to keep looking out of the corner of their eye while they're doing something else in the computer or doing something else in the room. So obviously, if you have visual novels and live streaming, stuff that tends to really demand the reader's attention, it doesn't translate well to being a part-time YouTube viewing experience. It's something you're kind of asking your audience to really dedicate their eyeballs to, right?
100%. I definitely do not and this is actually something I've thought about. I do not really see my content, what I put out on YouTube, as something that you can put onto another tab or minimize or just have on in the background. This is something that, unless you do know the language that is being spoken other than my commentary, you kind of have to pay attention. You also are engaged like the entire time, which can definitely be a bad thing because long form videos are in a very weird spot right now. They sometimes work, they sometimes don't. And a lot of people, as you guys said, will just kind of throw it on in the background and fall asleep to it or just have it as something as a form of background noise. And my videos are definitely not that. They definitely can't be. Unless you do know like Japanese, then you can fully pay attention. But I think because this is a game that requires the visual novels require your full attention anyways, my videos are sort of in the same state.
See, what I get from your response is that there is untapped market of Let's Sleeps. So you know what to do.
I don't think it's untapped. You've got ASMR people for that.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That's not Let's Sleep, that's ASMR.
And that is
But you could be the first of the Let's Sleepers with VNs.
a visual novel ASMR sleep aid. Oh man, that's the sort of thing you'd see on like the $5 DSL site.
I think I'll stick to regular Let's Plays. I think I'll avoid this Let's Sleep or ASMR. Maybe in the future I'll try something.
This might have to be our last question for the episode, but Michael, in hindsight, now that you've been doing this as a hobby for about 10 years, are there any important lessons you've learned over that huge time frame compared to when you started out versus where you are now?
Oh, definitely. There's lots. Full context, I created my YouTube channel back on November 13th of 2013. Again, years of not really knowing what I wanted to do, and it was kind of just throwing out, playing games with friends or going through games by myself. Again, Let's Plays, and then eventually jumping into, turning my attention to visual novel Let's Plays. Still playing games here and there, but I've had a lot of time doing pretty much a lot of the same to think about what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. I've gotten a lot to learn, or I've had the opportunities to learn a lot about YouTube's algorithms, how they've changed over time. I've got to basically see the downfall of Let's Plays. It's something I do, but I know that it's not necessarily a rewarding type of video to really go out there and make constantly. Unless you're doing something very different, very unique, it's just not going to work in this day and age with YouTube. So I got to see a lot of change with YouTube, most definitely. But what I focused on was what I was doing, how I could be better, how could I also avoid trouble and, stay in my lane. I looked into quality. Quality has also been something that I've wanted to improve always. And it's something I still look at, making sure that every bit of what I record, even if it's just a Let's Play, is of good quality, visually and via sound. I remember looking up how to make myself sound better through a microphone. I upgraded my microphone back in, I have it in my notes here, I think it was 2019. And that was such a significant change around for me. It made me realize that, yeah, people are watching, but they're also listening. And that is a huge thing with what I do is commentary. So if I don't sound good, people aren't going to want to, be around. So that was a significant change that I made, something that I learned through years of making mistakes and having the wrong interpretation of things. And it just goes a long way. Quality, I think, is something that I've had to greatly learn about and adjust to. And it's something that I'm still keeping an eye on because I want to be the best for myself and for the viewer. I would say that is the big one right there.
That's very admirable, given
Aw.
that it's hard to admit a fault and it's hard to see faults in what you do and strive to improve. So it's very, very nice, very admirable of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
congrats.
No, always trying to be better. You know, I think another one is also just how do I say it? You know what? Never mind. We'll keep it to quality. I think quality. How you sound, how you present everything is huge, and it goes a long way for yourself and everybody else. I truly believe.
Mm-hmm. Right, then on that note, that seems like a good point to stop things for today's episode. Thank you so much for coming by, Michael. It's been wonderful having you, and I hope you have plenty of success in your live streaming and Let's Plays in the future.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I don't necessarily have any significant plans, but I do hope to continue to do what I'm doing and, you know, entertain people in every which way.
It was a pleasure having you. You were such a passionate person to speak about Let's Plays, both from the standpoint of a hobby turned into a YouTube channel. Thank you once more, and venture out.
Venture out.